Thank you. Right.
3 reminders last night.
You are.
3 reminders.
3 reminders. Yeah, some people got 3 reminders. Yeah, there's something wrong with the hub. It's like messaging several people, and then everybody else in the list, which is about another 100, don't get any reminders at all. So I was like, I'm going to have to create another group. Okay, what do we want to get out of today? Right? Obviously, I've called this seminar the 5 levels of fat loss. Right? And it is. But what do you guys want from it? No one wants to speak.
Walk out 2 stone lighter.
2 stone lighter. Right, so we want to burn fat. Burn fat. Okay? That it?
You want to know the right way to do it.
The right way to do it. Okay, fair enough. Good. In the right place for that. So you do it. Pete, why are you here?
Because he told me
You were going to say that.
Because he's going to trick us out early.
I'm getting paid for it. It's getting paid to sit here and listen. Right, okay. So, when it comes to fat burning, right, we're talking about the fat we've got stored in our bodies, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah? We all agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay? The reason why it's the fat you've got stored in your bodies and not the fat that you're just eating is because when you eat fat, it goes into your body and gets utilized or gets stored, right? So if you don't use that fat for your daily system, you will wear it, all right? Now, that doesn't mean that fat is bad, all right? Fat is actually essential to your health, vitality, far more on a higher level than protein and carbs ever will be, right? So I got a message, actually it was off Joe the other day, yeah, and he sent me this message saying, I'm gonna go 0 fat for a bit. And I went, don't do that, you'll die. And he went, sorry, I meant carbs. It's like, shit, okay, that's a big mistake, but yeah, all right, no worries. Okay, so now the reason why fat is so essential, all right, is because it is responsible for making something in your body called cholesterol, right? Who's heard of cholesterol? Show of hands. Most people, everybody, yeah. Okay, who thinks cholesterol is good for you?
Well, there's good and bad.
Half of it, all right, good and bad, half of you think it's good. Who thinks it's bad for you? Bad for you. All right. Okay. So let me highlight to you something. Without cholesterol, you would be dead. Right? Period. Okay. Cholesterol is not good, nor bad, nor evil. Okay. It is a substance that your body uses to make hormones. Right. Particularly your steroid hormones, so testosterone, adrenaline, cortisol. Or your sex hormones, right? So if you didn't have cholesterol, you wouldn't have those hormones, right? Now, I'm not going to get into the whole debate of whether, you know, how much you need and what it's for and all that kind of stuff. Just know that without cholesterol, you wouldn't be able to make hormones, particularly as well fat-burning hormones. So if you don't eat enough fat, you can't make cholesterol, and if you can't make cholesterol, you can't make fat-burning hormones. So all of a sudden, does fat become kind of essential to burning fat? So we need fat, all right? We need fat in the diet, okay? That's the first rule, okay? So I'm going to come back to that in a second, and I'm going to talk about more now about the fat that you've got stored in your body, but I need to lay down that as a foundation now because it gets confusing otherwise later on. Okay, so the fat that's stored in the body, okay, you want to get that burnt off, right? Okay. Why do we think that's so hard to do?
Because we like eating naughty things. And your body's designed to store fat.
So your body's designed to store fat. We like eating naughty things. Okay, anything else?
Taking more than we need.
Taking more than we need. Okay, potentially, yeah. Okay, so the first thing you've got to do when it comes to actually fat that's stored in the body is you've got to mobilize it. All right? Most people aren't aware that fat is stored dry in the body. It's stored in a, you know, have you ever, right, okay, who's put boiled water before or had a pot of water, they're going to boil pasta and you put oil in it? Done that? Right? What happens to the fat? It floats. It doesn't actually mix with water, right? Okay. So if you want the fat to unbind from the system, right, you've got to get it mobilized. You've got to get it in a form it can actually separate off from itself, from the body from, right? Now, the way you store fat, okay, is in the form of what's called a triglyceride. So if I were to draw a triglyceride, it would look something along the lines of that, all right? It's a glycerol molecule with 3 little fatty acids, so fats, attached to it. And the way those fatty acids are attached to that molecule, right, is via a process what we call a condensation reaction. So a condensation reaction is basically, if you have condensation in the water, sorry, condensation in the window, it's water in the window, right? Where's the water come from?
Yeah.
The air. So what's been removed from the air? Water, right? That's a condensation reaction, okay? So that fatty acid, or these fatty acids, are bound to that molecule through a condensation reaction. So the water has basically been sucked out from the middle of them, and they've been fused together, right? So if you don't have enough water in your system, are they going to unfuse? So the first thing, right, and I'm not going to put water, I'm going to put hydration, okay? Because it's not just about drinking gallons of water, okay? It's about getting your body hydrated, right? So it's warm, we exercise, we sweat. What does our sweat taste of?
Salt.
Salts, right? Who puts salt in the water? 2 of you, good boys. See, right? You need to put minerals in your water to replace those that are lost through daily exertion, right? Living, sweating, working out, existing, right? When we lose water through perspiration, we lose salts, right? Particularly magnesium, potassium, and sodium. So if you don't hydrate with those minerals, all that happens is you put water back in the system, and what happens to it? It goes in one end and goes out the other. So do you ever actually get hydrated? Nope. All right? So there's an old saying, and it's you are what you eat. And it's not entirely accurate. You are what you absorb. Okay? Because if you eat something, it goes straight through your body. Have you absorbed it? No. Has it done you any good? Nope. All right? I'll tell you a story that got told to me by one of my mentors. And he deals with a lot of people who have a lot of medical issues and they're on a lot of drugs. So when they go to see him, he gives this big form to fill out, and it's very comprehensive, and he's sitting there looking at the results. And he says to this one guy, he says, right, we'll call him Bob. Bob's my favorite name for anybody who would like as a random name. All right, so he says to Bob, Bob, when you go home, stop at the Chinese for me. He's like, you're a dietitian and you're telling me to stop at the Chinese? He says, yeah, because I need you to see something. So he says, get home. He says, go to the Chinese, buy a pair of chopsticks. When you go to the toilet, I want you to break open your stool so you can see what's in it. He goes, that sounds disgusting. He says, do it. So he goes home, gets the Chinese, gets the chopsticks, breaks open his poop. And there, this guy's on 15 different drugs, are all his undigested drugs in their capsules. Straight through his body. No absorption. And he's wondering why he's not making any, none of this stuff's making any better. All right? So if you're not hydrating and you're not absorbing anything, is it doing you any good? Nope. Okay? So with your water, right? How much water do we think we need a day? That's the random number that everybody always says. 2 liters a day, right? Okay? If you've got a pen and you want to write this down, if you not already know it, it's your weight in kilos times 0.037. So easy maths, if you're 100 kilos, you need 3.7 liters. Base. Right? When would that go up?
Hot weather.
Exercise, yeah.
When you sweat more. Okay? The more you sweat and the more water you flush through your system, the more you need to actually put back in. What have most of us been drinking this morning? Coffee. Coffee is actually a diuretic, all right? It doesn't dehydrate you massive amounts, but it will dehydrate you because it will stimulate and irritate the bladder and make you release more water. Release more water, what are you going to put more back in? More water back in, all right? So the reason, one of the critical reasons why this is so important, and it's the most important step, all right? Okay, so the first level, is that if you think of fat burning as a priority as far as your body's concerned, where do you think that is, right? As far as water usage goes. You've got your brain, your lungs, your digestive system, your immune system, mobilizing all your muscles and joints, making all kinds of wonderful things like blood, right? Where do you think fat burning appears on its list for hydrating your triglycerides?
Pretty low down. by the sound of it.
Freaking down at the bottom, right? So if you don't give your body the base requirement, why is it going to deal with the low level requirement of, like, you know, getting you skinny? It's not. Can't. Okay? Your body can only do what it can do with what you give it. All right? So if you starve it of sleep, recovery goes down. You starve it of water, fat burning goes through the floor. All right? Can you still burn fat in a dehydrated state? Yes, it's possible. Are you making it easier for yourself or harder for yourself? Harder for yourself. All right? And I'm all about making things easy. Yeah? That's why I live so close to where I work. All right? So make sure, right, you're addressing the first step. Because if you're not addressing the first step, it makes all the other steps harder. All right?
Dan, when you mentioned diuretic as a coffee,
Yeah.
how much of a litre is that actually taken away?
I think, to be honest, I don't think there's an actual science behind how much. I think it just depends on how reactive you are. Don't forget that caffeine is an habituary drug. Right? So an habituary drug basically means the more of it you have, the more you actually need to get the same effect. Right? So I was in training the other day, and one of Gabe's clients was training with Pete. And I've got these 2 cans of Nocco, which have got caffeine in, and each of them have got 180 milligrams of caffeine. And there's I actually Googled it the other day, there's 225 milligrams of caffeine in an espresso. And I worked it out that I'd had somewhere in the region of about 5 grams of coffee that day. 5 grams of caffeine that day. All right, and I'm just sat there chilling, like it was nothing. He's like, how have you drank that much caffeine? I was like, it doesn't actually have that much effect on me, and not anymore. But I can go for days and not have any, right? Says the man who's not had any for ages. No, I'm joking, right? Because I detoxify really, really well. So the more you handle, the more your body can handle toxins, caffeine's a drug, then the more you can handle caffeine and things like that. But if you have 1 cup of coffee and you're like, I wouldn't have 6 cans of Nocco in one day. That would be bad. Okay? All right. So hydration is the first step.
The only problem with that is, for what I weigh, I'm probably supposed to have a litre or a litre and a half of water a day. If I drink more than half a pint of water a day, I'd spend the whole day in the bathroom. I would just be weeing.
That's my point. You're not absorbing it. That's what I'm saying about the minerals. You've got to put no more minerals in it.
And does that stop you wanting to wee?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. It's remarkable because I used to have that same problem, and I started putting them little fizzy tablets in, and you don't have that. I've drunk it, so I've got to go. Oh.
That's the whole point.
It hangs out your system.
Yeah? And this is what I'm saying about hydrating, not just drinking loads of water. Yeah?
Salt in your food.
You what, sorry?
Just put salt on
You could put salt in your food? What kind of salt?
Sea salt.
Just
Himalayan salt. Himalayan salt. The reason why Himalayan salt's better than the sea salt, it's not just more minerals, salt's full of crap.
Yeah.
Right? Himalayan salt's clean. Yeah, there's less toxins on it. And the problem with sea salt is that it's really highly processed these days, so you don't actually know whether you're getting good stuff or bad stuff. Right? Himalayan salt's pink. So if you see Himalayan salt that's brown, it's not Himalayan salt. Or white, it's not Himalayan salt. Okay, so hydration, numero uno. Okay, next one. CISO. You know what that is, don't you? Yeah. CISO stands for calories in, calories out. Okay, there is a large debate going on online at the moment, and you've got the CISO people versus the non-CISO people. All right, so there's people who say that calories in, calories out doesn't matter. That's sort of rubbish. And then you've got people who say calories in, calories out does matter. It's not the only thing that matters, but it's the first thing. All right. So another one of my mentors, guy I follow, called Nick Mitchell. So he put a post out the other day, and he says, if you feed someone that's burning 2,000 calories a day 4,000 calories of chicken, rice, and vegetables, healthy food, they will get fat. And all these people are arguing, going, well, no, because a calorie is not a calorie, right? So, what's a calorie, first of all?
A unit of energy.
Okay. Are there different types of calories? Calories a calorie, right? There are different places you can get those calories from, but a calorie is a calorie. A calorie is a unit of energy. It's how we measure energy. The dictionary definition, or the scientific definition of a calorie, is the amount of heat energy required to heat 1 litre by 1 degree. That's what a calorie is. All right, well, technically it's a K-calorie, capital K. All right, so a calorie is a unit of energy, okay? Now, if you take a gram of protein, that's going to give you 4 calories. All right, if you take a gram of carbohydrate, it will also give you 4 calories. And if you take a gram of fat in, it will give you 9 calories, okay? So are those sources of calories different? Yes, absolutely. Do they each contain what they say they contain? Yeah, right? So if you're overeating calories, okay, and I'm going to break this down further in later on, then you will gain weight, or you make it harder for your body to lose weight. Because the first and foremost thing is that you have to, if you want to lose weight, you must be in a calorie deficit, all right? If you're not in a calorie deficit, right, so the way it got explained to me was this, right? If you have somebody that's not in a calorie deficit, right, let me get this right. Sorry, no, that's in a calorie deficit, that's right, and they are gaining weight, then they have figured out how to break the second law of thermodynamics, which is basically making something out of nothing. So they are effectively God. Because they can make something out of nothing, right? And the first law is you can't make or create, so you can't create or destroy energy. And the second rule is you can't create or destroy matter, right? So you can only take something and change it or move it, right? So if you're wanting your body to metabolize fat, which is stored energy, then you have to give it a reason to, all right? And if you don't give yourself enough of a deficit, so as an example, I was online talking to somebody the other day, and he said to me, so it was a guy, he said, is 100 calories a decent deficit? I said, depends how fast you want to lose the weight. I said, how much weight do you want to lose? He says, and I can't remember exactly what he said. He said something like 7 kilos. So 7 kilos, okay. Right, so I said that's 7,000 times by 7. So what's 7 sevens?
49.
49. So that's 49,000 calories. How long is it going to take him to burn off 49,000 calories? That's 100 calories a day. It's going to take him a while.
4,900 days.
There we go, you see. So I said, it's going to take you a long time to burn off those calories. He was like, oh, shit. Right. Guess where he was the next day? On the treadmill, trying to get his deficit up.
But
All right.
Where is the deficit too much? So if you starved yourself and had 0 calories for a period of time, you would die and still be fat.
Yep.
So where is the deficit too much of a deficit?
It depends on, right, okay, so how much of a deficit is too much of a deficit, right?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got a client at the moment, and whether I agree with it or not, he's losing weight, right? Because it was his choice to do it this way. He's on about 750 calories a day. He's a guy, right? He's dropped.
He's a guy who's eating like 40,000 a day, was that?
You what, sorry?
Yeah, you previously had a huge calorie.
Yeah, well, he really doesn't get that big. But he's lost just over 30 kilos in 11 weeks. Yeah, right?
How much is that muscle versus fat though?
Actually, a lot of it is fat. He's lost a bit of protein and he's lost a lot of water.
So that's 4 stone in 11 weeks.
Yep.
He
Actually, no, sorry. When we worked it out, because his goal was to lose 5 stone in 12 weeks, right? And he was literally, it was probably more than 30 kilos in that case, right? He was literally, it was because we were talking about it, and he was so pissed off. He was literally half a pound off 5 stone of drop.
Wow.
Literally half a pound on to the day of his measure. He was like, I went, goes to the toilet quick. Get the 5 stone, right? Okay. Oh yeah, absolutely. But so we as trainers had a debate about it, and it was like, well, that can't be healthy for you. I said, neither's walking around at 169 freaking kilos, which is doing him more harm.
Here, though, isn't it?
You what? Sorry.
The problem's in here. The faster you lose it, the faster you put it back.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I'll go through that in a
Such
second.
an extreme though, you can't keep that up.
Well, it depends. It's mindset.
Do you want to keep it up for that?
I bet.
Right. Okay. So right. So we're gonna put this to one side just for a second, because I can see we're getting into a debate here. Right. So people say diets don't work. Right. Okay. Pete, do me a favor. Just flick that switch.
This one.
Yeah. Shit. The lights just went out. Turn it back on. Do the lights work?
Yeah.
Only when I'm doing it. Diets do work, but only when you follow them. Lights work, but only when you turn them on. You stop doing a diet, it stops working. Yeah? You know, people have that, that thing of diets don't work because when I stop doing it, it stopped working. Well, of course. Like, Christ almighty, if I stop having caffeine, I will stop having the effects of caffeine. Yeah? If someone stops taking their blood pressure medication, they will stop having the effect. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. You've stopped doing it. Yeah? Who's heard that you turn fat to muscle and muscle to fat? Non-interchangeable. Right? My dad told me that when I was 12. He says, you don't want to get too muscly, because when you get older, you don't work the muscles, muscle turns to fat. Sorry, Dad, you're wrong. That's not how it works. All right? Okay. If you drop calories ridiculously low, yes, you will lose some muscle mass. All right? If you then ramp up the calories back to where they were previously, will you pile weight back on? Yeah, absolutely. Of course you will. Your metabolic rate slowed a little bit. But the point is, you don't go from 700 to 4,000 like that. Right? Much like on, let's say you were going driving. So you're driving on a road and you're driving at 20 miles an hour. Right? You don't just go from 20 to 120 on a race course. You train yourself to handle more and more speed. Yeah? You train your body to handle more and more nutrition. But the problem with the calorie deficit going so low is that eventually the body does cotton onto it and starts to slow things down.
So weight loss will be less extreme.
Correct. Right? And this is where you've got to put things in to keep the calorie deficit working effectively. All right? Yes, absolutely.
Once you've gone down to such a low limit, like you say, and it starts to think, then the only way to lose weight after that point is to lose it.
We're going to go through that. That's the next part of it. Right?
Sustainable, you know.
Well, the
It's not
sustainability,
sustainable either.
the sustainability question is all about how much do you want something, right? It really is. It becomes a mindset thing, right? Because, I know people who can't last 5 days without being on a diet, and this guy's done it for 12 weeks. I know people who, I've not eaten gluten actively for probably going on 12 years. Right? And I've got people saying, you can't stay on a gluten-free diet for more than a couple of weeks. Bullshit. I've been on it for 12 years. It's in your head. Yeah? It affects my gut. I don't eat it. Period. All right? Now, but the calorie argument has a second level to it. All right? Your macros. All right? So macros are protein, fats, and nope.
Sugars.
Alcohol. Alcohol is now classified as, it shouldn't be, but it is actually classified as a macronutrient, okay? Because it forms a major part of people's diets and it isn't a carbohydrate as such.
Alcohol.
Yep. Right? Alcohol contains 7 calories per gram. Right? So higher than sugars, higher than carbs, lower than fats.
How much the alcohol was sugar though converted into?
It's because it's so refined and it's so broken down, and because it's it doesn't, when you have food entering your system, it goes into something called the Krebs cycle and it enters at different points. So it doesn't enter the Krebs cycle at the same point that carbohydrate would. All right? So because of that, huh?
Is it essential?
No. Actually, all right, okay. What does essential mean as far as the body's concerned?
That the
Good girl, right? So the essential in the body means you cannot make it within the body. You have to take it in, right? So there are essential fatty acids, omega-3s, omega-6s, yeah? Omega-9s, right? There are essential amino acids, proteins, arginine, lysine, valine, and several others. There are no essential carbohydrates. Okay, so when Joe sent me that message about the fats the other day, I sent him a message back saying, if I were to take 100 people and dump them on an island where all they could eat was sugar, right, and left them there, within a year they'd probably all be dead. Because you can't absorb certain vitamins and minerals without the presence of fats. And the same goes to the proteins. They might live a little bit longer, but they wouldn't be as healthy. You put them with people on the fat island, and they would actually live the longest. Because you can make glucose out of fat, right? And you can make repair hormones out of fat.
Can't make protein out of fat.
No, but you can slow the breakdown of things like that. Yeah? All right. Now, when it comes to macros, okay, we've got proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, right? Okay. So let's say, for example, someone's on a 33, 33, and 33%, right? Lifestyle. So their bodies require 33% carbohydrates, 33% fats, 33% proteins, and for Dave, 1% alcohol. There you go, you see? Right? Just for you that. You can have the 1%. In fact, you can have my 1% as well. There you go, you see? You got 2% now. Right? Okay. So we've got, let's say this guy, girl, whatever, was on 1,500 calories a day. That's 500, 500, 500. That's what their body's burning, right? So let's say we've got this person, we've worked out that their body needs 500 calories of protein, which is 125 grams, 500 calories of carbs, which is 125 grams, and 500 calories of fats, which is about 65 grams, I think. Someone wants to do the maths on that, they can do. 500 divided by 9. All right. And we feed them 200 grams of carbs. All right. Or let's do it another way. 800 calories of carbs. All right. 500 calories of protein and 200 calories of fat. Right? So it's still 1,500 calories. They're still within their calorie allowance. Right? 8 plus 5 plus 2 is 15, right? Okay, let's take that off. What's going to happen to them? They're in their calorie allowance, but they're overeating their carbohydrates by 300 calories a day. Okay, so the body has things that can do with each macronutrient. Okay, so you overeat fat, and it's very hard to actually overeat fat. Okay, because you'd usually be sick before you actually get to the point of consumption, overconsumption. All right, so you overeat fat, anything your body doesn't need, it will store. Okay, you overeat protein, and any excess proteins are excreted through your urea, through your wee. Okay, you overeat carbohydrates, and what happens is the carbohydrates come into the body, and your body goes, right, well, I've got all this sugar here, right? And the first place that the body wants to store carbohydrates is where? Where would you guess? Muscle. Okay, next is, somebody said liver. The liver. Okay, so what happens is when your muscles are burnt, when you're working out, the first place the body burns the energy from is its muscle. Then it goes to the liver and goes, send up more carbohydrates, send up more glucose, ATP. That's your body's quick energy, right? Because we need more of it. So it shuttles it up to the muscles and your muscles get the chance to burn. All right? So that's why when you're doing reps, you'll do a set and you get to the point where you can't do anymore. You put the weight down, you go, whew, this is hard work. And you give yourself a minute and then you pick them up and you can go again. All right? What's happened is the brain send a signal down the system going, send up more fuel and put it in my arms or my chest or wherever. All right? Okay? This is the whole energy system. I'm not going to get into the depths of it because it's too complicated. All right? Let's reverse this. So you try and get the energy into the muscle and the muscles go, nope, can't go in there, I'm full. Next place we go is, we're going to go to the liver. And the liver goes, well, no, you haven't burnt any energy today. I'm not depleted. There's no room at the inn. Where do we go next? Fat stores. Okay? So what you don't eat, what you don't burn, you wear. All right? It's a bit like, so I always use this analogy. So you're going to go to the petrol station, there's your car, and you try and put too much fuel in your car. And what happens if you try and put too much petrol? Well, before we had the days of the clicker that basically stopped the fuel going into the car, right? What would happen to your fuel if you put more in than you need? It would spill over the sides. And that's what happens to people. It spills over the sides.
Based on what you were saying there, you could be in a calorie deficit on eat carbohydrates and gain fat.
Correct. Right? And this is the next part of it, all right? Okay, so when we eat glucose, right, what's going to happen to blood sugar? It's going to go up, okay? Just so you know, BS stands for blood sugar, not something else. All right, so we eat glucose and blood sugar goes on the rise, all right? Now, every individual person, I'll come on this side because I want more space, right? Every individual person's got regulations on how much glucose that their body, or blood sugar, their body can handle, right? So some people's regulations are a bit shot at, like Pete's. It's not his fault, he's got type 1 diabetes. Other people's, they've got a wider ability to handle sugars because metabolic activity is higher, all right? So if I go out down to the pub and find someone that's got 85 kilos of weight, same as me, that's never exercised a day in their life, what's their muscle mass and strength going to be like in comparison with mine? Much lower. What's their ability to handle sugar and carbohydrate going to be like in comparison with mine? Lower, right? So their regulation for glucose, let's say mine's like this, theirs might only be here, right? They've got a tighter margin of what their body will handle as an amount of sugar going in, or an amount of blood sugars going into the system, right?
Why is that?
Is that metabolic rate?
It's to do with metabolic rate, it's to do with muscle activity, all that kind of stuff. And it's to do with actually basically how insulin sensitive you are, okay? So what's the other name for diabetes? Insulin resistance, right? So you've got insulin resistant on one side of the coin. On the other side of the coin, you've got insulin sensitive, right? The more insulin sensitive you are, the better your regulation for glucose is, right? The better your body is at getting rid of the glucose, because as soon as your body goes too high, I'm gonna start bringing that down, all right? Some people with their diets, I'll use a different colored pen, it's easier to see, all right? So some people, they wake up in the morning and their glucose regulation is here, or it might be here, or it might be here, right? Or it might even be over already, right? The only way you'll know is if you test your blood sugars first thing in the morning, which I recommend everybody does. You should test morning, you should test evening, you should test during the day, at least for a couple of weeks until you know what your patterns are, all right? So I'll come back to this just for 1 second. I'm going to just talk about blood sugar for 1 sec. So one of my clients sends me this message, my sleep is absolutely shocking at the moment. I don't understand what's going on. So I said, right, test your blood sugars. Test your blood sugars in the morning and test your blood sugars in the evening. So I get the evening one and the morning one, all right? And then send them both through to me. So she sends me blood sugars, and the blood sugars are here in the evening, and they're here in the morning. So they've gone up in the middle of the night. Right? Now I'm going to tell you about that properly when I talk about hormones, but let's just say that, right, her blood sugar's rising, there's hormones going on that's affecting her body's ability to regulate blood sugar, right? And that's why she's not sleeping. So I basically said to her, right, make these changes to your diet. The next couple of weeks, blood sugars, they reversed. I said, how's your sleep? Better. So now blood sugar's dropping in the middle of the night like it should be doing. Because in the middle of the night, are you active when you're asleep? You don't lie there and don't move for 8 hours. In fact, I know people who are more active when they're unconscious than they are when they're awake. Right? Burn more calories actually asleep because you move, you toss and turn. Right? All right. So, depending on where your blood sugars are when you wake up in the morning, dictates what?
How hungry you feel.
How hungry you feel and
How much energy you've got.
and what you need to eat. Because if you've got high blood sugar first thing in the morning and you go and reach for the Cheerios, what's going to happen to your blood sugars? They're going to go even higher, right? If you wake up in the morning and blood sugar's really low, you probably need the Cheerios because your blood sugars are really low. You right? If your blood sugar's regulation is good and you put the wrong thing in, blood sugars could go that way, they could go that way, or they could just carry on being normal. Okay? So, when it comes to macronutrients, protein and carbs both elevate glucose. Just protein doesn't elevate it anywhere near as quick. But fats stabilize blood sugars. Okay? And I've had many a debate with people about this, but I've actually tested it. All right? Personally. Okay? So if you have a high fat meal, blood sugars hold stable. So Caroline, my client, who couldn't sleep, I said to her, what did you have for tea last night? Oh, I had this, and this. I said, right. I said, what were you going to have tonight? She was, I was going to have the same, but I was going to have more carbohydrate. I went, no, don't do that. I said, I want you to have 20 grams of butter on your food. She went, what? I said, I want you to eat 20 grams of butter with your tea. She went, you're telling me to have fat. I said, I'm telling you to have fat. She was like, you're telling me I can eat fat. I said, I'm telling you you can eat fat. She went, you're the best trainer ever. Right? So she had 20 grams of fat. Blood sugars came down. I sent her a message the next day. I said, how was your sleep? She was brilliant. I went, right, do the same thing again because I want to make sure it wasn't a fluke. So she repeated, same thing again. Guess what happened? Good night's sleep. All right? Guess what happened to her weight? Started to go down. Because when you're asleep and you're sleeping well, you make more fat-burning hormones. And you stop retaining fluid. All right?
Why did you recommend butter rather than something like olive oil? Is butter not one of the
Saturated
fatties?
fat. It's better for you.
Is it?
There's actually, so when Ansel Keys, we'll go back to cholesterol for a second, right? When Ansel Keys put his research in that the cholesterol, about the cholesterol theory, right? From what I understand, and I can't remember the amount of money, there was a thing that went out where they would pay anybody, and it was for the time it was a large amount of money. It was like 100 grand, right? Anybody that could come with proof that his theory was correct, that saturated fat was bad for you. And to this day, it has never been claimed. In fact, if you watch, you've seen The Magic Pill, right? If you watch the documentary, The Magic Pill, it actually talks about, in recent years, there was a retraction made by the medical board about saturated fats and cholesterol and all that kind of stuff. And it came from a doctor attempting to be sued by the medical council because he was recommending high-fat diets to people and they were getting better.
That was recent, that was South Africa.
Yeah, it was a couple of years. It wasn't that long ago. All right.
On Netflix or
Yeah, it's on Prime, isn't it?
Netflix.
Oh, is it Netflix? All right, it's on Netflix. All right. So, yeah, I gave her something that was. So the difference between a saturated fat and a polyunsaturated fat is to do with the carbon chains. All right. And basically, what happens is in a saturated fat, all the carbon chains are basically full. Right. What you end up with is a very stable fat. Right. So if you look at the rancidity for temperature on olive oil versus saturated fat goes way higher because it's more stable a fat. That makes sense? Okay, so the more, if you right, okay, so we understand that rancid is bad.
Why is the Mediterranean diet supposed to be so healthy with lots of olive oil and very little meat?
You what, sorry?
Why is the Mediterranean diet supposed
It's
to
great
be
for Mediterraneans.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So, genetics play a major part in your life, right? Okay, if I take an Eskimo and go and feed him a Mediterranean diet, I guarantee you now he will die on it. Because Eskimos are designed to handle what? Fat. Right?
Yeah, but that's fish oil. That's another one that's supposed to be healthy, isn't it?
Yeah.
They don't eat bacon butties and dripping, do they?
Nope.
I'm trying to get
Yeah.
around this.
What you've got to understand is nutrition is personalised, right? But saturated fats, right? Okay, so we cook a lot of our fats, right? Saturated fats handle heat far better, right? Fish oil you should never cook, right? Because it doesn't handle heat very well, right? So you should never like get omega-3 fish oil and pour it in your pan and cook with it.
Well, that's why you make chips with dripping, isn't it? Because it gets a much higher temperature.
Correct.
You can't fry things in olive oil, basically.
Right, because the flash point's not as high. Yeah? Why? Because they're not as stable a fat.
Okay.
Yeah? But the proof is, or shows, that saturated fats are nowhere near the villain that they've been made out to be. All right?
If you look at the Mediterranean diet, there'd be way less processed foods in there.
Yeah.
Way less.
True.
Yeah?
That's true.
All right, and what's it for? So we've said that the Mediterranean diet is full of olive oil, right? It's one of the main things of full of olive oil. What's olive oil? It's fat. What's their diet higher in? Fat. What we're trying to get you to eat. Right? Okay.
On that chart though, Dan, you said protein can increase your...
It can. It just doesn't do it as quick as glucose. It's slow. It's a slow increase, but it will go up.
Why does it?
Because your body can break protein quite easily down into glucose. It can't break fat down. How hard is fat burning? It's freaking hard, right? That's the reason why. Yeah? Okay. So depending on where you start on this chart in the morning, what should dictate what you actually have to eat first thing, right? When else should you be doing this?
All the time.
Yeah, all the time, definitely, right? Before and after training, because it will actually dictate how hard you can train. Because if your glucose is high pre-workout, we need to do something that's really kind of glucose disposing, right? If glucose is really low when you're training, you've no glucose in your blood. So if I try and batter you, what's going to happen? You're going to produce cortisol, which is going to produce stress hormone. Well, it's a stress hormone, which is going to break muscle down and push up glucose. That's where the science really starts coming in. Okay?
What does caffeine do to your pre-workout?
So caffeine actually releases fatty acids into your blood. Why do you think I'm so lean? People think I train a lot. I don't. I just drink loads of coffee.
Now I understand why there's 5 grams.
Yeah, okay, so, right, so I was on a seminar many years ago, and the guy said there's two things, the best two things for getting fatty acids released in the bloodstream are caffeine and horniness. So because it stimulates the release of fat-burning hormones into your body. There's an old saying. So if you see a man, man has only 2 settings: hungry and horny. So if you don't see him with a sandwich, be careful. All right. Okay. So blood sugars. Right. I'm going to go into this a little bit more in depth. Right. There are 5 hormones that elevate blood sugar. Right. So this is the whole thing of if blood sugar is really low and you're not regulating it properly, can you still have high blood sugar? Yes, right? And the reason you can have high blood sugar is because there's other hormones pushing it up. And those hormones are testosterone. If you want to write these down, you can, right? Growth hormone, IGF-1, so that's insulin-like growth factor 1. I'll have to write these down because I'm losing track. Cortisol, testosterone, growth hormone, IGF-1, and glucagon. Okay, so cortisol, stress hormone. Okay, you go for a long period of time without eating when your regulation for nutrition. So some people say, well, I can go all day without eating, I don't really feel hungry. That's really good for you. Fair enough, no problem at all. Okay, if I go for more than 3 hours without eating, then it's a miracle. All right, you've all seen me in PT sessions. I have to, apart from you, right? I have to eat during the session, all right? There's a really good I eat during there's a reason why I eat during the session. It's so I don't take a chunk out your arm. You've seen The Walking Dead. Right? Okay, testosterone, growth hormone, IGF-1, and glucagon. Glucagon responds directly to glucose. Okay, so you eat a load of sugars, glucagon basically helps push the sugars up. Okay, there's only one hormone that brings blood sugar down. What's that, Pete? Insulin. Okay. Okay. Now, as we've discussed before, when the insulin goes up, it tries to push the glucose into your muscles, into your liver, or it will push it into your fat stores. Okay. So it's not that insulin is bad, all right? It's doing a job, all right? Okay. Why does Pete inject insulin, eat a load of food after training, and then inject a load of insulin? To get bigger, right? Okay. No, joking aside, that's the realest one. A lot of bodybuilders these days, they are actually using insulin, right? Pete's using it obviously because he's diabetic.
That'd be dangerous.
It's very dangerous, right? You can actually die from it, but getting bigger is more important to some people, right? Seriously, okay? So if you have a hormone that pushes all the nutrition straight into your muscles, is that going to help you grow and develop faster on a strength basis? Yeah, absolutely. But what's going to happen to all that glucose and sugar if your insulin is high and you don't need the glucose? You're going to wear it, okay? So keeping control of your blood sugars, okay, through diet is actually really, really important, okay? Because with the exception of diabetics, insulin is the one hormone you have complete control over, right? In fact, even the diabetics on a level have complete control over it because they're choosing to inject it or not, all right? Because insulin responds directly to how much blood sugar is in your body, all right? And a lot of that is dictated by what you eat, okay? You know, with all this stuff going on, you choose to eat, blood sugars will go up. What you choose to eat will affect how your blood sugars go up.
And that's why, is it type 2 because there's so much glucose in the body, people become resistant to the...
That's right. Yeah, you can actually, but you can actually reverse type 2 diabetes. It is reversible. Okay?
Well, they actually think it's more of an autoimmune deficiency now. They actually think that diabetes type 2 might be more of an autoimmune deficiency.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In relationship to...
The same way by thyroid and what have you, there's certain things are going wrong with people now and they're thinking that the immune system is working against certain things in the body, which is
Okay.
not just
So...
you diet and all kinds of things, but...
Right. So, what you've actually brought up is another that is actually the next level, right? Believe it or not. Stress and gut health. Okay? So I've already mentioned about cortisol, right? If the body is stressed, it produces more cortisol. And cortisol pushes up blood sugars, right? Now, there's only two ways you can actually handle stress, believe it or not. Only two. For all the stresses there are only two ways of dealing with it. Right? You either lower the stress, which isn't always the easiest thing to do, especially if it's the kids, get rid of them. Right? Okay? Or you increase your body's ability to handle the stress. Okay? Those are the only two methods for handling and dealing with stress. Because the reason, because the thing with stress is, regardless of the type of stress, your body deals with it the same way. Right? The body's internal system's hormonal. It's just very animalistic. It doesn't know the difference between having a meal skipped, or being shouted at, or being cut up on the motorway, or I was talking to somebody the other day and they said I had to fire somebody, and their stress hormones were like, right? Or being fired. Your body responds internally identically to all of those responses. Okay? So it doesn't know the difference between one stress and another stress. You know the difference, but it doesn't really help the situation. All right? In the same way it handles stress, it actually handles excitement. Right? So if you think about the physical responses that your body feels when you're stressed out, okay, what do we get? Physical sensations of stress or fear.
Heart rate increases.
Heart rate increases, sweating increases,
Can't sleep.
can't sleep. Okay, Now describe excitement.
Same.
They're identical, right? Why? Because your body's responding the exact same way, okay? Because it's producing the exact same hormones to those responses, all right? Now there's two major types of stressors, all right? You've got short-term and long-term, right? Short-term stressors are the ones that your body's designed to actually handle, okay? So who saw any of that BBC documentary, The Truth About series stuff? Yeah, saw some of it, all right? So it may still be online if you go on BBC Online, all right? And one of the things they did was they did The Truth About Stress, which I found very interesting to watch, all right? So The Truth About Stress was basically they hooked up 4 different people from different lifestyles, different jobs, all that kind of stuff, and they exposed them to short-term stress. How they exposed them to short-term stress? They brought out a box of tarantulas and put them on their hands and their heads and all kinds of stuff, and their adrenaline and their catecholamines, so that's right, that's adrenaline, levels spiked up, and they were jittery and their heart rates were up. And then when the spider went away, everything went right back down to normal, right? And they're like, how do you feel? I feel knackered, I feel exhausted. Right, why? Because you've used a load of sugars, right? You produce a load of stress hormones and you produce a load of adrenaline. That's good, that's what's supposed to happen, right? With long-term stressors, okay, that low-level cortisol is continuously affecting your body and wears it out, okay? It continuously, if you're producing cortisol on a low level all day long, what do you think is happening to your blood sugars? It's continuously pushing them up. What's happening to your blood pressure? It's continuously pushing it up, okay? Now, like I said, there's only 2 ways of handling stress. So one way is to get rid of the stressors, which again is not always the easiest thing to do. But if you know what's stressing you out and you can get rid of it, then do it. The other way is to increase your body's ability to handle stress. So things like increasing antioxidants in the body, things like minerals like magnesium, all right, meditation, exercise. Okay. Sometimes it's the type of exercise as well. I've had several times where clients have come in, they've been wound up and frustrated, and I've gone, right, let's bin your session today. We're doing boxing. Right? Why? Because you need to burn some stress off. You need to get some frustration out. Okay. Anything that gets it from out of here and away from you is going to bring down the stress levels. Okay. People have a lot of mental stuff today. Write a list. Get it out of your head. Because once it's out of here, it's easier to deal with, right? The other thing that also affects is your gut health, okay? So anything that inflames the gut causes bowel issues, bad wind, bloatedness. Those are little mini reactions going on inside the digestive system. Again, pushing up your immune response, which is pushing up your stress response, which pushes up things like blood sugar, makes you retain fluid. All right, affects weight. All bad stuff. Make sense?
On the long-term stress,
Yeah.
if your blood sugars are elevated but you're not feeding them with calories or carbohydrates,
Yeah.
that would help you lose weight, would it not? You're burning more than what you're putting in because you're elevated.
Where's the sugar come from?
It's come from the stores.
Yeah, but you
Liver
burn.
or-
So you can only store so much glucose in the body,
Yeah.
right? So good question. Right. So our body's made of what 4 things?
Water,
Protein.
fat, protein, fat.
Right. Okay. Where's the carbs?
Fat.
Nope.
Is it really?
There isn't any. Your body's not made of glucose. All right. You have glucose stored in your muscles and in your liver, right? And once it's gone, it's gone. So where are you getting energy from?
You're breaking down your own
Fat
muscle.
or your protein?
Your fats or your proteins. What's easier to break down, fat or protein?
Protein.
Protein.
Protein. What are you going to lose?
Muscle mass.
Muscle mass. What's going to happen to metabolic rate?
Slow down.
It's going to slow down. You're eating 500, 1500 calories a day, and metabolic rate goes down, 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 down. So here's how many calories you're having a day, and metabolic rate's up here. Yeah.
I was just saying nearly time into it.
Yeah,
I need to sit
okay.
for the boot camp.
2 minutes, I'll be out. All right. So metabolic rate's here. We're all right. We're burning energy. We're burning energy. We're burning energy. Oh shit, we're getting fat. Okay. There's so in terms of shock stress will make you lose weight every single time. Prolonged stress will make you gain weight. Okay. You want to see the effects of really simple effects of weight loss from shock stress. You speak to anybody that's been divorced or had a really nasty, close death in their family, something they were not expecting, right? And they'll go woof with weight. The problem is, shortly after that, it will catapult and start going back up again, right? Because some of their weight loss, they're losing muscle. And why? Because of the adrenaline and the cortisol and all that kind of stuff. It's feeding on all those stores. Don't forget, where do you make your hormones from? Fats. Okay, so if you're burning a lot of cortisol and adrenaline, you're going to use those fat stores, but the second that stops and it starts abating and you carry on eating, what happens? You get a rebound. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
So, you what, sorry?
We need to buy tarantulas.
Buy tarantulas. You're going to buy tarantulas, but then once a day you've got to let them out and just let them run around.
You can eat them.
You can.
They eat them in Vietnam.
So do we know more about fat burning? What are we going to do? Test our blood sugars, hydrate our bodies, right? Training, right? Tip for you. Get angry. The angrier you get when you exercise, the more adrenaline you produce. Okay? The more adrenaline you produce when you train, the more fatty acids you release to be burnt off. Okay? So anybody who's seen me train knows, right? In fact, you ask any of the guys, right? Go and speak to them and say, what happens if you interrupt Daniel mid-set? They will get their heads bitten off, right? It doesn't matter who it is. Mum, Haley, the boys, they know full well not to interrupt me when I'm training mid-set, because this is like elevated, stress is elevated, testosterone is elevated, and who knows what roid rage is, right? I'm on steroids, right? But all those hormones are elevated, and I'm using it. You know, you don't walk up to a 160 kilogram barbell and go, I'm going to lift this now. Yeah? You walk up to it with the point of kill or be killed, right? So when you're training, get wound up about it. You will actually burn more fat. That's it.
Thank you.
Well done, guys.
Better than mine tomorrow about 5:30.
You what, mate?
Better than mine tomorrow about 5:30.
That's what I want to hear. Who's staying for boot camp?
I'll see you tomorrow.